to fill out this survey. Oh, there we go. Just in case. But I think this is perfect. Yeah, yeah. Let's move this. Do you need a couple more minutes? Yeah. important questions. All right, another 2 more minutes. Okay, looks like you got a couple questions left, some of you. So I have a question for you. Do you prefer the mic? Oh yeah, the stream. Okay, whoever you are who is sick. Oh, the camera. Hi. Okay, take some Tylenol, get some rest, some fluids. You'll be okay. Yes. Yeah? It's an honor. Yeah. Oh, being sick is not fun. Yeah, yeah. It's we don't have any snow in Ontario yet. So this is a nice wake-up call. All right, so why don't we begin? And whoever's left finishing answering the questions, feel free to do so while I'm talking. So today, oops, let's get this going. Oh, this will work one day, you'll see. There we go. Okay. So, hi everyone. Good to see you. Today I'm going to be talking about finding the ideal partner. And yes, I have already found one for myself. Her name is Sarah. She's in the back. But it's for you. It's not for me. So there's a lot that I want to say. But first, I really want to say I'm very grateful and humbled to be here, to come all the way from Ontario. It's a huge blessing. And I consider myself very privileged to be here in your midst. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me. I want to do my best to give you what you want out of the talk today. So please feel free to interact. Please feel free to ask questions. Please feel free to, tell me if you disagree. This is a safe space, okay? At the same time, if you have questions, you can ask them in the middle of the talk. You can ask them at the end of the talk. Also, given the nature of what we're talking about, maybe you don't want other people to know you asked a specific question. That's okay. So in the survey that I gave you, in the one that you have here, you can ask questions completely anonymously. So no one will know that you asked a specific question. I won't know, no one else will know. So it's your chance to ask questions that maybe you've always wanted to ask about relationships, but maybe never felt comfortable doing so in public. All right? Okay. So please feel free. In that survey, there's a button at the bottom of every page where you can ask a question, and then I will get to those questions at the end. Does that make sense? All right, awesome. And also, I am trying to give you a good talk, but I'm also always welcome to, open to feedback. So if any ideas about how I can give a better presentation in the future, the last slide in that quiz is for you to give me some feedback. So don't hesitate to give me some feedback on how I can improve in the future. And if it's Justin, show up on time next time. Okay, I got it. That's my bad. All right, so let me tell you a little bit about myself. So I have a psychotherapy practice where we do therapy, right? It's called Building Bridges Psychotherapy. And you can see there in the corner the logo. I'm very proud of this logo. And we have an extremely diverse team of therapists, including several therapists who are also Coptic Orthodox. So we work with individuals, we work with couples, we work with families, and we have various in-person locations. All of them are in Ontario, but we also do therapy remotely over phone or video, and you have every right to see whichever therapist you want. So if you wanted to do therapy remotely with one of our therapists, you have every right to do so. You can connect with us on social media if you wish. So as for myself, I don't like spending too much time talking about who I am, but I guess since maybe you don't know me, I'll tell you a little bit. I went to school, university, wanting to be a doctor, right? Like any good Coptic boy or girl, right? And yes, I am Coptic. I'll show you the DNA results, I promise you. Well, actually, in grade 12, I wanted to study theology, but then my father confession is like, you want to study theology? What's wrong with you? Don't study theology. He's like, you'll learn everything you need to in church. Go and become a doctor. Okay, I'll become a doctor. But then I fell in love with something else. Now we're talking about relationships. I fell in love with psychology, and I couldn't resist this calling to study the human mind, to study relationships and the way we think and all of that. So I ended up switching after third year. It's a 4-year program. After third year into psychology. So I did psych. And then I did a first master's. It was a research degree in psychology, in social and personality psychology, in particular cultural psychology. I was really interested in how people think about divorce in different cultures. Maybe in some cultures, divorce is a little bit more common. In other cultures, if there's divorce, maybe we have certain attitudes towards people who are divorced or kids of divorce. And then I did a second master's because, of course, one is never enough, right? We're always trying to do so much. I took the very long route to get to where I needed to be. And that second master's was in couple and family therapy. So I am a therapist, but I specialize in relationships. So, relationships in my master's, or second master's, all that stuff. So I'm a registered psychotherapist. That is basically the licensed therapist in Ontario. But I'm also a registered marriage and family therapist. Again, relationships, too many relationships. And I'm also a clinical supervisor. I teach people how to do therapy. All right, so that's me. My name is Justin. I know it's not very Egyptian, but it's my name. Justus, you can say Justif if you want. I'm a therapist, so that's why you can find me on social media, Justin the Therapist. So that's a little bit about me. Oh, and I grew up in Mississauga. Anyone heard of the Mississauga Church? I'm sure you've never heard of the Mississauga Church. No one knows the Mississauga Church. Okay. All right, so that's a little bit about me and my practice. I wanted to tell you about something else. So who here is a student? Okay, a lot of you are students, right? So when you're a student, typically you don't have a lot of money. And it's also possible that even if you are working, you may not necessarily be able to afford therapy. Therapy can be expensive. It's a big investment. So this is why I also created Affordable Therapy Ontario. I know it's Ontario, and you're like, hey, who cares about Ontario? We don't like that province. I get it, okay? Who is this guy? He doesn't even look Egyptian. It comes in here with a blue suit and all that. Well, here's the thing, okay? Let's pretend it's called Affordable Therapy Alberta, okay? You know what? Just go to affordabletherapyalberta.com and you'll be okay. It's the same website. I rooted it. So anyways, my point here is this is a service. It's a branch of our practice where we basically allow people to pay whatever they want for therapy, because I believe that money should never be a reason that people do not get access to therapy. Okay, so if you or anyone you know needs therapy and can't afford the typical full cost, just go to affordabletherapyalberta.com and then we'll connect you with a therapist, okay? Ignore the Ontario part. No one likes Ontario. I get it. All right, so that's a little bit about me. Now it's time to get to know you. So I asked you to fill out that survey. So let's take a look at the survey. How exciting. All right. Is it this way or is it this way? Is it this way? This way, yes. Okay, let's go here, present. Oh, is it gonna work? Oh, wait 1 second. Yes, I picked that because I figured maybe it'll resonate, right? Oh, okay, 1 second. I'm having a little bit of technical difficulties. Oh, there we go. Okay. Perfect. Okay, so I asked you to fill out the survey. Let's check out the results. Okay, it wasn't this slow before. Is it still working? Oh, okay, hold on. Oh, there we go. Okay, sorry about this. So I asked you, what are you hoping to get out of today's talk? Gain more knowledge? Someone said to find George a wife. Who's George? George. Everyone, there's George. Okay. Apparently he's single. Wife. Someone just put wife. Okay. Maybe that was George. All right. An idea of what I should be looking for, what an ideal partner might be like, learn more about what to prioritize and how to compromise, find love, profound understanding of how to find an ideal partner, and tips that will guide me through the process. Knowledge on important characteristics of a partner. Okay, here's another one. We hear about different opinions, especially in our Coptic church when it comes to this topic, so I'm hoping to know your view about it as a psychologist. One thing is, I'm not a psychologist, I'm a psychotherapist, but yes, I appreciate that, and that makes sense. Makes sense. Okay, yes, I will absolutely give you my perspective as a Coptic Orthodox Christian psychotherapist. So you get kind of the blend of both. Okay, then I asked you another question that will eventually show up in 3, 2, 1. Okay. So I asked you, what is your relationship status? So we have 4 people single, not looking. 4 people single and looking. 2 people in a serious relationship, 1 person married. I think that's Abuna. Okay. So I asked you, how do you feel? Is it very difficult to find the right romantic partner? And most of you say, yes, strongly agree. 7 out of 7, yes. And some of you said, somewhere in the middle. Okay, then I asked you another question. Why is it so hard to find the ideal partner? Okay, it might be hard for you to read, so I'm going to read this to you. I asked you to rank the reasons. So the number 1 reason you said is, I guess God hasn't shown me the one yet. You all rank that as, or together, you rank that as the highest one. Number 2 reason is, there are not enough good options available. Okay. Okay. And then the 3rd one, I'm not good enough, I need to be better. 4th, I'm not looking hard enough. And last one is, people are intimidated by me because of all of my qualities. Okay. Overqualified. Exactly. Looks like none of you think you're overqualified. That's good. Exactly. PhD in being the best single. Okay, what do you think about the idea of soulmates? I wanted to know your opinion. So there are 3 options. So it looks like the most popular one is, marriage can work for almost anyone as long as both partners put in the necessary work. Okay, but at the same time, there was 4 people who said, there is only one person in the world for you whom God has picked for you. Interesting. So it's like there's 2 different opinions. One opinion is that you can have a successful Christian marriage with almost anyone as long as both people put in the work. And the other opinion is, no, there's one person in the whole world. And my mission right now is to find that one person. Where are they? Where are they? Right? Okay. All right. Interesting. Very interesting. The next question is, okay, so what are the most important qualities in a partner? And this is a word cloud, so it puts it all together. This is what you think the most important qualities in a partner are. So for those of you looking, this is what you think. Loving, caring, kind, and patient, and honest. Oh, that's good. That's good. I agree. Those are very important qualities in a partner. Yeah. And then you provided a lot of other good ones. Gentle, godly, fear of God, child of God, godly partner. So spiritual, has the right views. Maybe all of those can be combined into one, which is maybe a good Christian partner.
I like the funny one.
The funny one, where is it?
Under loving.
Under loving. Oh, yes, funny. Yes, one person thinks it's good. Not all the time. You need to be serious sometimes. Yeah, exactly. Yes, yes. A good balance. So I asked you, think about your ideal partner, rank the qualities from most important to least important. Okay, so you ranked most important, number one, is Christian values. Okay, good job. You picked the right answer. All right. And then, yeah, then we're done. That's it. No more talking. Second, third, and fourth answer are about equal. So you probably can't read it, but I know what it is. Kindness and compassion, loyalty, and communication. Okay? All right. So kindness and compassion, loyalty, communication, those are under like the second place, all three of them. And then physical attractiveness, open-mindedness, and then last place is wealth and career. Okay, all right. That's good. You passed the test. You'll all get a certificate at the end. And then the next question, how hard is it to find these qualities in a partner? Okay, so you said which ones are important. Now it's like, how hard is it to find these ones? So a good communicator is really hard, and someone who's loyal is even harder. But those are the hardest ones to find. But apparently here in Alberta, it's the easiest to find someone who's wealthy or has a good career. Interesting. See, the lowest one is wealthy, great career. Okay, easy to find here. Okay, interesting. Yeah. You know, maybe the answers would be different in us poor folks in Ontario. I'm just kidding. All right. So Christian values is also high, but these are not necessarily 10 out of 10. These are around 6 and 7, so it makes sense. Okay. All right. Then I asked you a trick question. Rate yourself on these qualities. See what I did? Okay. So you think it's hard to find a good communicator, but you see yourselves as being really good communicators, or 5 out of 10, I guess. Kind and compassionate, Christian values. You see yourselves as not being very open-minded. Oh, interesting. You think it's really easy to find wealthy and great career, but you see yourselves as not having that. You're at 3.6. Okay, but you all see yourselves as very loyal. Interesting. 7.6. Okay. Are you laughing at the last one? How many out of the 10? I'm not sure, but what we can see, it's we had 6 people, or is that 5? Rate themselves 5 out of 5. Okay, all right. Humble, right? It's good. Okay, all right. So, was that the last question? Maybe it was. All right. So anyways, thank you for answering that. How was that activity? How did you find it? Was it interesting? Okay. All right. I thought it was interesting. So like I said, you can use the website, the link, to ask any question. I'll get to these questions at the end, but you can also ask questions, on the fly. All right. So let's talk about relationships, okay? Of course, we're going to start with Scripture, which is in Matthew. So they are no longer two, but one flesh. Therefore, what God has joined together, let no one separate. This is what we're aiming for, right? Long-lasting, everlasting unity in marriage, right? Sacramental relationships. But it's not easy to find, right? Sometimes it can feel like there's 2 options and you don't know which one to pick, right? Could be, maybe one that's attractive, but they're not kind of distant, or maybe one that's really nice, but they're kind of clingy. Who knows, right? So I talk to a lot of people who are single as a therapist, and whether it's clients that are from the church or clients that are not. And here's the number one problem that I hear people say, right? When they say, I'm struggling to find the right person for me, this is how they explain it, okay? Say there aren't enough good men or women out there, right? It's just, I'm looking and I can't find them, right? Okay. So maybe they've tried various approaches. They've went to conventions, they've went to, youth groups, they've went to, I don't know, gatherings, social events. Maybe they went on certain websites. I don't know if anyone knows Meet and Write. But they're on there, and then they're just like, who are these people, right? It just doesn't feel like they're a good match, and then they're just, yeah, it can be hard sometimes, even when you're opening yourself to using, technology. So I'm going to give you an example, okay? I'm going to represent what a lot of people say by a friend of mine, okay? His name is Peter. This isn't actually a real person, but let's call him Peter, okay? So my friend Peter, okay? My friend Peter's single, and he says, this is what I'm looking for. What is he looking for? I want someone who's good looking. Okay, all right, Peter. I also want someone who's easygoing. I want someone who's loyal. I want a woman that doesn't give me any drama. And I want a woman that doesn't question my authority. And I want a woman that will raise the kids. And I want a woman that will cook. And I want a woman that will clean. And I want a woman that will take care of the house. But I don't want it to be my mom. I'm like, okay, Peter. All right, Peter. Huh? Custom made, right? A custom made, right? Okay. And so I call Peter Picky Pete, okay? He wants I don't know. All right, we'll see. And then I have a friend, her name is Suzanne. Okay, again, this is not a real person. And Suzanne here, she says, I want a man who is strong, but also gentle. And I want a man who's a leader, but he also lets me do whatever I want. And I want him to be tough-minded, but I don't want him to be stubborn. And I want him to be handsome, but I don't want him to be shallow. And I want him to be religious, but I also want him to be open-minded. And I want him to be my rock, but I also want him to be in touch with his feelings. By the way, rocks don't have feelings. So I call her Choosy Susie. Okay? All right. So we have Picky Pete and Choosy Susie, right? So they're both struggling to find a partner. Now, when we think about partnership, how do we think about it, right? When you think about relationships and finding the right person, think about an analogy. The analogy that comes to my mind when I think about it is it's kind of like shopping for a car, right? You have a budget, and then you go into the car dealership, and then you're like, is this car worth my money? Is this good enough for me, right? So every time you interact with someone, you might be asking yourself, is this person good enough for me to give my entire life to? That's a valid question. But here's another question, another way you can think of it, is instead of it being like you're shopping and you're trying to find the best product for your value, for your money, I invite you to think about it like a business relationship, right? Where it's instead of, is this person good enough for me? It's more, are we good enough for each other? In other words, are we compatible? So it's not about, is this person good enough for me, or am I good enough for them? It's, are we a good enough fit? Are we compatible, okay? So it's not exactly a business partnership, but we'll use this as an example. In business partnerships, they work when there is perceived mutual benefit. It's when I perceive that there's value in the other person, and they perceive that there's value in me. It has to be a win-win, okay? So some people will say, okay, well, the people are not good enough. It's not exactly that. I invite you to think of it, I want a better deal, okay? We're both going to win together, okay? So how do you get a better deal? Okay, I'll give you another analogy, okay? Think of you and your relationship as a ladder, okay? You've got the two rails, and then you got the rungs in the middle, okay? So here's you, but what you can do while you are waiting is you can grow yourself. And the more you grow, the better a relationship you can have in the future, okay? So this is what I mean. If you're single and you're waiting and you're actively looking, maybe not the ones who are not looking, what you can do is you can hypothetically increase your value through self-improvement. You can continue to work on yourself and grow, and hopefully that will lead you to find someone that you really connect with well. if you're in a relationship, okay, you don't have to stop working on yourself. You found the one, you can let yourself go, gain a couple of pounds, it's okay. I'm just kidding. No, don't stop there. Continue to work on yourself, and hopefully you and your spouse continue both to work on yourselves, to grow in all domains, not just growing in your career, but also grow in your health, grow in your intellect, and also, of course, grow spiritually. And you can have a deeper relationship that way. But here's the thing, you can only control yourself. So the idea is grow your ladder, is to work on yourself for now. So if you were hoping that I would be here to showcase singles, to be like, okay, here's the people that God was, waiting to show you, I am obviously not here to do that. But what I can do is, while you're waiting, help you to work on yourself so that you can have that even better relationship. Now you're all disappointed, but that's okay. All right, so let's talk about here 7 qualities to cultivate in yourself for a better relationship, okay? So, Picky Pete and Choosy Susie, they come to me and they say, you know what, I don't want someone who is stubborn, right? Okay, so let's talk about stubbornness. Stubbornness can be a big problem in relationships, big problem in dating. When people are too hung up on their own ways of thinking and own ways of viewing the world. I'm not talking about giving up your Christian values and your Christian faith and stuff like this. That's not what I'm talking about. But you can have 2 people who are, of course, very spiritual, but they're really hung up that everything has to be my way, right? And you're not allowed to, or if you think of anything in a different way, you're wrong. And there's a lot of conflict. So what's the antidote? Open-mindedness. Open-mindedness is very important for relationships to work, not just romantic relationships, professional relationships, even spiritual relationships, friendships, relationships with family members. So there are 2 parts to open-mindedness, okay? So, relationships, well, before I get to that, the importance of open-mindedness is that you have 2 people who are different coming together. That's the definition of a relationship. 2 different people coming together. It'll only work if there's open-mindedness, okay? So one is intellectual humility. Anyone know what intellectual humility means? No? Any idea? No? Yes. Your hand is up. Yes, exactly, right? No one is always right. Maybe you're wrong at some point, and that's okay. And so what happens is that when I work with couples, sometimes this is where they spend so much time and energy arguing over who's right and who's wrong, okay? When maybe it's a little bit of both for both people. So it's so much smoother if there's this openness to the idea that I could be wrong. So it allows you to be open to other different perspectives, which then allows for compassion, kindness, empathy, gentleness, consideration, the things that you think are very important in a relationship. All right? So these are essential values. And here's another one, another aspect of open-mindedness, okay? Openness to experience. Any idea what this is? It's not a trick question. But it is a psychological trait. Anyone heard of openness to experience? Has anyone ever taken a psych course in undergrad? 1, 2, 3, 4? Okay, good. Okay, so openness to experience is basically the extent to which you are open to new experiences, okay? We're not talking about being open to a different religion, we're not talking about that. We're just talking about you've never gone skiing before, but your partner loves skiing, or the person you're dating loves skiing, you're open to trying it, right? Or maybe your partner's family is a little bit different than yours, but you're open to doing things their way, or spending some time with them. Just being open. Now, obviously, the more similar you and your partner are, the better, but still, you will be different. Now, there's a lot of research on relationship satisfaction, on what makes people happy in relationships. And what they find is that after the honeymoon phase is over, what keeps that spark in relationships is if both people are open to new experiences together. If you and your partner do nothing together, you just live together, maybe you take turns raising the kids and doing the chores, but you don't do anything together, especially anything new together, that can be really detrimental to your relationship. But research shows that when partners are open to doing new things together, then that actually can ignite the spark and keep that energy and that excitement in the relationship. So it's really, really helpful. This is what we call self-expansion. All right? Any questions about that? Or any thoughts about that? No? All right, let's go to the next one. So, Picky Pete and Choosy Susie. They say, I don't want someone who's clingy or needy, someone who's messaging me all the time, someone that's all, obsessed with me. I don't know, maybe maybe some people want that, which is okay. So let's talk about self-acceptance, okay? This is a very important one. So a lot of times when I'm working with people who are single, something that they struggle with is their sense of value, right? It's this idea that I'm single, and then I feel like if only I was with that person that I really, really like this person, I don't know, he leads the mass, he's 6 feet tall or something, or maybe she's so spiritual and she actually comes to Tisbaha and she serves all this. See, yeah, I told you I'm Coptic. I know what these things are. Or this person is so beautiful, this person is so wealthy, or etc. Right? If only I was with them, that'd be amazing. I'd be so happy, right? And then if I am in a relationship, I might ask myself, am I good enough, right? So a lot of times we derive our sense of value from the fact that we are in a relationship, or we could be in a relationship with this amazing person. So I ask you these questions, okay? You can ask yourself. Actually, let me ask you this right now. What is the longest relationship you've ever been in? Oh, you're like, that's a personal question. Any thoughts? Anyone? The longest relationship you've ever been in? Christ and your parents? Absolutely. Yeah, see, you're seeing the trick question. Any other idea about the longest relationship you've ever been in? Anyone else? Sibling. What is sorry? Yes. The longest relationship you've ever been in with one of them, of course, aside from your relationship with God, but the other one is yourself. You've had a relationship with yourself since you were maybe even conceived, right? Sure, of course, you've had a relationship with your mom as well, but yourself, okay? So here's the next question for you. If you married yourself in a strange Loki type of way, if you were someone who was married to you, how happy would you be? How happy would someone be married to you? Okay? How much do you see your own value? So the question is, am I good enough for me? What do you think? Some people, they're like, absolutely, I am so wonderful that, I'm just waiting for someone good enough for me. But a lot of people struggle with that. A lot of people think like, I'm not good enough. And I want someone who's better than me. But I'm here to tell you that you are good enough. And what makes you a great person? Obviously, Christ is the one who gives you value as a Christian. And it's important to think about, what does that mean? And what are God's given gifts to you? What are the things that make you a special person? What are the things that make you an amazing partner to the person you will marry in the future? So reflect on that, okay? So then hopefully in the future you're able to see that whether you're single, it's not that my partner will make me whole or my partner will make me better. It's that I know my worth. I am a good person regardless. And when I'm in a relationship, I can also teach my partner why I am worthy, and they will teach me why they are worthy, vice versa. So my sense of value is not tied to my partner's behaviors. And this extends even to things like infidelity. We're going to the extreme here. Some people are worried that if my partner cheats on me, then that means I am a bad person. I'm embarrassed. It's not on you. Your sense of value is not tied to your partner's behaviors. It's not tied to your partner. Your sense of value comes from within and comes from God. Make sense? All right. All right, any other questions about that? Okay, next one. Picky Pete and Choosy Susie. They say, I want them to be my best friend. I want this person I'm going to marry to be my best friend. Who here wants to marry their best friend? Well, okay, who wants the person that they're married to be their best friend? Because maybe you have a best friend right now and you're like, I don't want to marry that person. But who here wants the person they are going to marry to happen to be their best friend? Yeah. Okay, yeah, absolutely. Wonderful. Right? No idea how to get there. All right. So, let's talk about becoming best friends. Let's talk about connecting with people. How do people get close? What do you think? Any idea on how people get close? Trust? Sorry? Yeah? Yeah? What else? Talking? Okay, yeah. Anything else? Time. Yeah, talking, time, the 3 T's. This is great. And while you're talking and spending time, what allows you to trust them? What leads to trust? Experience. What kind of experience? Any idea what is the key to connection? Wow, very nice. Vulnerability. Yes, good job. Okay, we have some we have some candy for you outside. All right. Vulnerability. Can you tell me what you mean? Yeah. 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 Absolutely, right? That is how it can happen, right? Is you can be vulnerable with someone, they can be vulnerable with you, it's safe, and that can lead to more vulnerability. If you think about a marriage, okay? And then you think about maybe 2 people who are coworkers, acquaintances at work. Which one has more vulnerability, right? The marriage has a lot more vulnerability. The 2 people, the 2 spouses probably know so much about each other, very vulnerable facts and thoughts and feelings and all of that compared to acquaintances. And it isn't just like it happens out of nowhere. It requires you to put yourself out there and potentially get hurt, but not get hurt, and then get closer. So that's the pathway. So let's go into depth. Vulnerability. If you think about the types of people or creatures in the world that are the most beloved, what are they? What do you think? What? Dogs? Okay, what else? Cats? Yeah, what else? Babies. You're so smart. Right? So smart. All of you are so smart. And yeah. So, everybody, almost everybody, they see a baby, oh, so cute, right? Babies are so vulnerable, right? Babies are not full of themselves. They're not, they don't have a wall that's like an emotional wall. They're not there in a blue suit talking about their degrees. They're they're vulnerable, right? And same thing, you're at a gathering, and then there's a dog. Everyone loves the dog, right? Everyone's like, oh, the dog. Dogs are so vulnerable. They're cute. They're innocent. They wear their heart on their sleeves, right? Everyone gravitates towards the dogs, right? And kids are so vulnerable, right? Why? Sorry, kids are so loved. It's because they're vulnerable. And this is why it's so easy to make, one of the reasons why it's so easy to make friendships when you're young is because you're just vulnerable with each other. This is why it's easy to learn languages, is because you're okay to make mistakes when you're a kid. When you're adult, you're like, I don't want to try and pronounce something in Arabic. They're going to make fun of my accent. I can't speak Arabic well. All right. So I'm reminded of an example from an old movie by the name of Hitch. Has anyone ever seen this old movie? This is dating me. Yes. Okay. All right. So in this movie, there is an interesting concept. This man, played by Will Smith, years ago, his job was to teach guys how to, get a woman, right? And so he was very smooth and confident and everything, and he had all the tricks, and he was helping this guy. And he himself fell in love with this woman, and he was trying all of his moves and everything, and it wasn't working. And then finally, something happened, and then he was really broken, and he was crying, and he was stuttering, and he was really just like not his usual confident, suave self. And that's when the woman he liked was like, I like you now because you're actually being vulnerable. So it's a lesson for us all. So the thing is, it takes courage and strength to be vulnerable. It's not about being weak. And it's all about being authentic, about being your true self. And it is a gift to be vulnerable to someone else, right? And so by expressing your feelings and also setting boundaries and asking for your needs to be met, that is what allows for connection. So if you are able to practice being vulnerable with people that you trust, that you're open to seeing if you can trust them, that can allow you to build connections. And this is applicable also for building friendships. The older you get, a lot of people complain, I don't have a lot of friends. So vulnerability is very important. And this is essential for relationships. All right, any other thoughts or questions about that? No? All right. How much time do we have left? I want to make sure I don't keep you too long. Still have time? Okay. All right, let's continue. Picky Pete and Choosy Susie. What's next? They say, I want someone who can understand me. There we go. All right? I want someone who will understand me. Okay? All right. So now, let's talk about communication. So, as a couple therapist, the most frequently described issue in a relationship is communication. Every single couple that comes to couple therapy, they want to work on communication. That's one of the things that they want to work on. So let's talk about communication. It's very important. And who here has been in a romantic relationship that didn't work out, and part of it had to do with communication? Lift up your hand. Oh, maybe you're not comfortable. Not vulnerable enough. It's okay. You don't have to be vulnerable. I will lift up my hand. And I'll lift up my hand for a lot of people that was an issue. Oh, unless if all of you are telling the truth, that you've never had an issue with communication. So, no, okay, yes, thank you. All right. All right. So let's talk about communication. So if you imagine a relationship, imagine it without any communication. What's left? There's not much left. Communication is so important. It's the connective tissue of the relationship. There's 3 common issues with communication, okay? Number 1 is lack of expressing. Nod your head if you've ever struggled with someone who just didn't open up enough, didn't communicate enough. Yes, there you go, yes, right? It's like, why aren't they messaging me back? There's also lack of hearing. You could be talking to someone and they don't absorb what you're saying. Another one could be lack of frequency, where it's just like we don't talk enough. Okay, so how do you overcome lack of expressing? What's the goal then? It's not a trick question. What do you think? Yeah, just share. Just share, right? It's important to share. Again, on the topic of vulnerability, it's important to share, right? Now, here's the thing about expressing, right? Is that you don't start off by saying everything that you've ever felt and thought and experienced on the first date. It's a gradual process, but it is important to share and open up with each other. As for a lack of hearing, so let's say you're talking, you're going on a few dates, or you're meeting in groups or something, whatever. You're connecting, but you feel like you're not hearing each other. Sometimes what happens in relationships is you have people that communicate kind of like an alternating one-way street. Do you know what I mean by an alternating one-way street? So you have like, two directions of traffic, but because there's construction or something like that, there's the construction worker that stops the direction of traffic and then lets one direction go for a while, and then after a while turns the sign and then lets the other direction go for a while, right? Instead of it being a two-way street. Now that's horrible. If you've ever been caught in that, I don't know. I'm going to drive to Banff tomorrow. I hope they don't have that. They do? No? Okay, good. Whew, all right. But anyways, yeah. So sometimes in communication, it is an issue because you have two people who are talking to each other and they're just waiting for the other person to stop talking so they can say their own thing. And they're just taking turns sharing. So expressing is not an issue, but hearing is an issue. So the invitation for you is to make sure you practice listening and absorbing what the person is telling you and be able to comment on what the person is telling you. Maybe for you, you're like, that's so simple. Why are you saying that? But if it wasn't an issue with some, I wouldn't bring it up. So the goal is to practice understanding. And then with lack of frequency, it's very simple. It does take time to build relationships. If you are single, but you have so much on your plate, you're finishing school, maybe you have a job on the side, maybe you have a very active social life, a very active spiritual life, very active life of service, very involved with your friends, sports, health, fitness, etc., right? These are wonderful things. But building a relationship takes time. It takes time to go out and meet people, to have conversations with people, to get to know people. And then when you're in a relationship that is a committed, long-lasting, a marriage, etc., it takes time. It takes time to prioritize connecting and communicating. So that's communication in a nutshell. Thoughts or questions about that? No? All right. Next one? Okay, next one. Picky Pete and Choosy Susie. They're like, you know what, Justin? I don't want anyone that I'm going to fight with. I'm tired of conflict. There's enough conflict at home or whatever, right? But, if we have conflict, I want to make sure I win. Okay, so let's talk about fighting. How to fight, okay? This is actually something I'm going to give a talk on to the young adults, to the young couples, married couples, in Sunday, yes. Conflict resolution, exactly. This is a one-slide summary of that. But basically, let's talk about conflict in relationships. So, you're with someone. You're so excited, you think you found the one. You talk to your father confession. They talk to the father confession, and the parents have met. Everyone's happy. The engagement ring and everything is beautiful and amazing. But then you have a big fight, right? And it's maybe the first big fight. Fights can be scary. It's like, uh-oh, is this the rest of our relationship? Big fights like these, conflict. Here's the thing. Fights are inevitable. Every single relationship has fights, has conflict. It's not necessarily a bad sign. But the goal is not necessarily to never fight. The goal is to be able to repair after fights. Okay? The goal is to be able to fight well. The goal is to be able to have conflict in a way that doesn't break you, but conflict in a way that helps you grow together. Okay? So there are things called the fair fighting rules, which I can go over later on, but attend the talk if you want, where I'll go into depth about how to have conflict well. And then another one that's very important, this is actually the talk right before it, which is buying in. It's important to buy into your partner's satisfaction and happiness. It's important to see you and anyone that you're connected with as a team. And teams only win if both people are happy, okay? But often in the dating phase, people are like, it's either me or them, and if it's me, I win. If it's them, I lose. So that doesn't work. It has to be a win-win. So the goal is mutual benefit. It's important to buy into each other's needs and happiness. All right, that was a very quick summary. I think there's only, 2 left? Hope you're not too tired and falling asleep. It's okay, don't worry. All right, Picky Pete and Choosy Susie. Okay, this is the one thing that you all said is very important, right? They have to be a good Coptic boy or girl, right? Number one, right? Because we're going to go to heaven together. Okay, so let's talk about spiritual compatibility, right? This is what everyone is aiming for. This is like the dream, right? You get the picture, you know, the altar with the crowns and the capes. It's a beautiful sacrament. Who are the couple? You know what? I was just telling Sarah, I should have put our picture. But I made this talk before we got married, and then I forgot to update this slide. But this is on Google, right? I think at Samba Yusuf, probably Metropolitan Yusuf, right? So that's a huge blessing. This is the dream. You have not just 10 priests and 3 bishops, you have a metropolitan, right? So, no, this is wonderful. They're very blessed. So, let's talk about spiritual compatibility, okay? Now, again, I told you that I'm a therapist, and I'm also Coptic Orthodox. So, from a spiritual framework, it is so important that you find a partner that brings you closer to God. But I'm sure you've been told this so many times, so I don't feel like I need to explain it further, because you know this. You've said that this is the most important thing. But I'll also reaffirm what you're saying, which is that even from a mental health framework, even if I was a secular therapist that had no belief whatsoever in God, I would still say that it's important that you find a partner with similar values and beliefs, right? Because it makes a difference. The more similar you are in values, the healthier the relationship will be. So regardless, it's extremely important. Now, I know a lot of people will complain that it's hard for them to find someone that shares their level, their variation, their taste in faith. And that can be an issue. A lot of people, especially growing up here, so being like second generation or first generation, you are bicultural. You have 2 different cultures. You have kind of a Canadian culture, you have an Egyptian culture, but you are Coptic Orthodox. And so it can be a challenge to find someone that maybe aligns with you nicely, but it doesn't have to be perfect. Ultimately, the goal is the same. The goal is to, is your salvation, is your relationship with God. So continue to work on yourself spiritually. That is extremely important. And hopefully the other person you choose is the same, and you'll both be able to go to heaven together, which is nice. So this will help a lot. There will be more agreement in the relationships. There will be fewer dilemmas, and it could be a bonding experience to be spiritual together. And this is not something that I need to explain to you. This is, I think, what a lot of you already know. Here's a question that sometimes I hear from people growing up in what we call lands of immigration, right? Which is it normal to expect someone to convert for their partner? Now, you're looking at me and you're looking at my beautiful wife, and then you're like, okay, well, he doesn't look Egyptian, but she really doesn't look Egyptian. And yes, I'm going to put her on the spot. She, of her own will, chose to convert, which is amazing. And I think that that's important, right? Is that it's important to find someone that has that love for Christ, but it can be difficult to expect someone to convert. It can be a requirement for you, absolutely. But I think if that's like you're coming in and say, you must convert for me, that can sometimes put pressure on the relationship, and sometimes that's a challenge, but sometimes it works. So anyways, the idea is that anyone who chooses to convert has to be their own choice. They have to choose. It can't be like, I'm just gonna get baptized just so that, we have the wedding in the church that you want to have it in. It's a very personal thing. And also faith is a communal thing too. So they're integrating with the community. So if you do find someone who is non-Egyptian, it's wonderful. I love my wife. By the way, my father of confession, at the premarital retreat, he said, you know what, Justin? Sarah, her name is Sarah. Sarah is more Coptic than you. She grew up in a more traditional home than you. And I'm like, you know what, you're right. She is more Coptic than me in a lot of ways. But it is important to understand that they're joining the community. Our church, thank God, we're so blessed. She is a community, a living family, and not just a place you show up for 1 hour, 2 hours on a Sunday. So it's important that they're able to be comfortable in our community. Make sense? Okay, any thoughts or questions about that? Okay. All right, next one. Picky Pete and Choosy Susie. So sometimes, like you, actually, I didn't know this would happen, but I assumed it would. Do you remember what I asked you to rank the most important qualities? What did you say was the least important quality? Oh, wealth. Wealth. Okay, never mind. I was wrong. Okay. Well, a lot of people will put very low on the list appearance. Right? Appearance. Yeah, it was very low, right? Second last, right? Right? So a lot, and but here's the thing. Everyone secretly cares about, or secretly, everyone does care about looks to a certain extent. So let's talk about attraction and sexuality. Yes, okay, this is important. We're talking about marriage. It is important. All right. So I turn to the verse, right? The verse in Matthew, where Christ says, "First clean the inside of the cup and the dish, and then the outside also will be clean," right? So here, Christ teaches us the important is the inside, obviously, first. And if the inside is clean, the outside will be clean too. But notice he doesn't say, first clean the inside of the dish and the outside doesn't matter, right? He does say the outside will be clean because the outside does matter to a certain extent. It is not necessarily the most important thing, but it does have some importance, especially in a marriage, okay? So the messages that I grew up about attraction, which maybe you can resonate with, are that, physical attraction is temporary, and that it should not be the foundation. It is the least important thing. And in fact, physical attraction is a distraction, right? Okay, well, what do you think about these? Let's have an open, honest, vulnerable conversation about these points. What do you think? Any thoughts? Or is this too uncomfortable? Yes. Oh, okay, I missed that. Okay. Care to comment on the Ya Salam? Yeah? I chose to drink water at this moment to increase the awkwardness. Okay, any other thoughts about this? What do you think? Okay, I agree as well. Yeah, if it is the foundation, looks do change. And there's so much more to the success of a relationship than looks. It absolutely crumbles if it is the foundation. Yeah. Any other thoughts about these points? Okay, how about this? A controversial question, okay? So, who here thinks that it's okay to be attracted to each other in the beginning, or maybe you're supposed to be attracted to each other at the beginning, but it's okay if you lose the physical attraction eventually because it's only good for the beginning. And you get old and then it's okay if you find each other ugly. That's an interesting face. Anyone think that? Okay, yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. 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 Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Sure. Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah. All right. Yes. Yes. Round of applause. Yeah. Hi. Ah, yeah. Okay. I really like this, right? That with the growing of the relationship together, you come to find each other attractive maybe for new reasons, okay? And I like the idea of the beginning of how it's like, I like to think of an analogy of it's Christmas, okay? And let's say there's a bunch of presents under the tree, okay? You don't know what's you don't know what's in the presents because all of them have wrapping paper. And let's say your parents say, you know what? You get to open only one gift. Only one gift, okay? I mean, that's not, realistic. Typically, you have more than one, but it's okay. Let's say they're like, of all of these, you get to pick one. All you can look at is the wrapping paper. And so maybe there's some wrapping paper that's really shiny and bright and colorful, another wrapping paper that's like not as shiny and colorful and whatever. So it's understandable, your human nature, you're like, oh, this wrapping paper is really nice. It draws you to the present, but it doesn't necessarily mean that what's inside the gift is actually valuable. It's not a guarantee, right? And in fact, what really matters at the end of the day is what's in the wrapping paper, not the wrapping paper itself. But it's okay if you, without any other information, are drawn to nicer wrapping paper. Right. Yeah. Satisfaction is very important. Yes. Right? And in the context of marriage, right? This is the person you are choosing to be with, the only person you're choosing to be intimate with for the rest of your life. I like to think of another analogy, like a car, right? Now, I like to think of it as long as the engines are able to start, It doesn't have to be a Lamborghini, right? But as long as the engine gets going, that's what you need, right? So if you're in a relationship and it's someone that you feel like they're so nice, they're really smart, but there's just something missing, right? It's, and I'm like, well, what is it? Like, well, I just don't really find them attractive at all. If the engines don't even start, that can be an issue, okay? But if it's enough to get the engines going, again, it doesn't have to be a Lamborghini, but if the engines get going, that's what's important. I mean, that's not the only importance, but let that be at least the threshold. And then over time, as you grow together, as you become more vulnerable and you have shared experiences and you build a life together and you're growing spiritually together and you're accomplishing projects together, you're raising children together, you grow as a team, and then you love this person, you're attracted to this person in different ways. But here's the last question for you. Do you think that because there are those other reasons for attraction over time, it's okay to let yourself go physically? I see a lot of shaking heads by the guys. So here's my response to that question is, do what you would hope your spouse would do. Okay? So if you feel like it's important to not let yourself go physically, I would start by always taking care of yourself. But of course, the inside first is the most important. And the outside also is important, but the priority is obviously the inside. Okay? Thoughts, questions about that? Wow. We survived talking about intimacy and physical attraction. This is wonderful. Let me give you some research that basically affirms what we're talking about, okay? So there's research on sexual satisfaction. So, sexual satisfaction. If people are satisfied sexually in their marriage, it accounts for 15% of the marital satisfaction. So basically, if the physical connection is good, it accounts for only 15% of why it's going well. But if sexual satisfaction is low, if in a marriage, two people are not very satisfied with each other sexually, then it accounts for 60% of the marital satisfaction, of the variance of the sexual satisfaction. So basically, what does this mean? It means that if things are going well, it's good, but it's not the main thing why it's going well. But if it's not going well, it can really affect things negatively. Does that make sense? So, sexual satisfaction is not a guarantee, but it does take work. And so it does come up a lot in couple therapy. You know, people have different sexual interests. There's a discrepancy in how often people want to connect sexually. There's people who are struggling with unmet needs, and there's often a lot of shame and guilt. So it is something that is important, and it is something that we talk about a lot in couple therapy. We work on it a lot. So anyways, in conclusion, it's important to have healthy relationship with sexuality. Sex and attraction are normal, healthy, and good, and it's okay to be attractive and to want attraction in a relationship. Make sense? All right. That was the last point. Any thoughts or questions about this? No? Okay. So in conclusion, finding the ideal partner can be difficult, but here's the answer. You are the ideal partner. Be the ideal partner. Continue to work on yourself for a better relationship, but also for a better life for yourself in general. And there's various things that you can work on. So number one is open-mindedness, which is the door to essential values and also gives that freshness in relationships. It's important to practice self-acceptance, to know your value, and also to be able to teach your partner. And it's important to be vulnerable, to connect with people. That's how you are able to connect with people. And it takes courage, but it is the key to connection. And communication can be an issue, but it does take time, it does take practice. And it's important to learn how to have conflict in a relationship, because you will inevitably have conflict in relationships. And so it's important to buy into each other's needs and happiness. And it's also important to be spiritually compatible, which you absolutely already know. And with regards to attraction and sex, it is not the foundation, but is not necessarily the least important. It can have an impact on the relationship. So, of course, I didn't talk about boundaries, but boundaries is extremely important, but that's a whole talk on itself. And interestingly, I didn't bring up once the term. What term did I not bring up once? What do you think? Huh? Psalmody? Soulmate. Oh, we talked about the quiz, but okay, yeah. But yeah, any other term I didn't bring up once? Huh? No, I didn't bring it. No. I'll just tell you. It seems like you're stumped. I didn't talk about love. Love, right? I didn't say love once, right? It's not that love is not important, but I think love is a term that gets used and we don't understand what it means, right? So I like to think of love, like I need to love my partner and my partner needs to love me. Okay, that's true, but what does that mean? So I invite you to think of love, especially in the context of a marriage, as not necessarily a noun, but as a verb. Love is work. It takes work. It takes commitment. It takes effort. It takes sacrifice. It takes time. It takes energy. It takes struggling and continuing and getting up. It's the same in our spiritual relationship with God, right? So, love is not a static thing. It's like I just love them or I just don't, or they just love me or they just don't. It takes work. And this is the work that you can do, starting now. All right? So, that is it for the talk. Let's go to questions. Any questions or thoughts? Yes.